Hey guys, it's TSS here, and today we're doing another Hot or Not video, but this time on the AK5C carbine. As some of you may know, Hot or Not is a series where I go in depth on a weapon, and ultimately tell you whether or not this weapon is hot or not. So with that out of the way, let's go on with the video. The AK5C is one of the first weapons you unlock within the carbine category. In fact, it is the first weapon that you unlock, and in my opinion, it's still one of the best. The AK5C deals 25 damage in close quarters or otherwise up until 8 meters, and this drops all the way down to 15.4 damage at longer ranges or otherwise up until 50 meters. If you were to compare this to the stats on either the ACE-23 or the M416, both of which are weapons that I have covered in other Hot or Not videos, you would find that the damage structure of the AK5C is actually not much worse in comparison to these two weapons, despite the fact that it is still a carbine and not an assault rifle. The guns have the same maximum damage, dropping off at exactly the same distance, and the AK5C only loses out on minimum damage by just over 2 damage. The AK5C has a fire rate of 700 rounds per minute, which isn't too high, but at the same time it's not too low in the fact that you can still kill people at close range. Personally, I quite like the fact that this gun has a fairly low fire rate, and this is because it means that the gun basically shoots laser beams, and it's extremely easy to control. The weapon has a bullet drop of 15 meters per second squared, which is exactly the same as both the M416 and the ACE-23. Considering that this weapon is a carbine and not an assault rifle, this statistic doesn't matter too much, but it's still very nice to have. When you are taking on enemies at longer range, this statistic means you don't actually have to aim that far above the enemy's heads, making the weapon easier to aim, as you can predict that exactly where you're aiming is exactly where the bullets are going to go. The weapon has a magazine size of 31 rounds, which is average for all of the assault rifles and carbines. One of the areas that this weapon excels at most is its reload time. As a carbine, this weapon is designed to be used at close to medium range. This means that having a short reload is an extremely useful statistic to have, as you never want to be killed when you're helpless and reloading. When there are bullets in the chamber of this weapon, and you're doing a tactical reload, the weapon only takes 1.85 seconds to reload. When you have completely magazine dumped and you're out of ammo left in the magazine, the weapon only takes 2.35 seconds to reload, and this statistic is actually a lot better than a lot of other weapons' short reloads. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on the weapon spread, although I will say that it's very, very low and a lot better than most of the other assault rifles and other carbines. Partnered with the weapon's extremely low recoil and low fire rate, I would suggest that you don't bother using the weapon at anything outside of medium range. Now we've gone in depth on the statistics of this weapon, let's move on to the setup. Unlike a lot of the other carbines within the carbine category, there are a lot of viable weapon attachment options that you can use with this weapon. The main weapon attachment setup you'll see me using throughout this video is the Coyote sight for my optics, the heavy barrel and the stubby grip. I find this weapon attachment setup to be very useful, as the heavy barrel gives me higher damage over range, and this means that I can sneak into the longer range gunfights if need be. Another thing that I like about this setup is that due to the use of the stubby grip, I can continue to shoot over long periods of time without having a decrease in accuracy. And then most of the time you'll see me using the Coyote red dot sight, as it's extremely easy to use and it's one-time zoom, which is probably the best zoom for this weapon, as we have to bear in mind that this weapon is a carbine and not an assault rifle or sniper rifle. So overall, this weapon is extremely versatile and it can be used well in most situations. The weapon is the first carbine that you unlock within the category, which means that it's extremely easy to unlock and you'll be able to use it pretty much straight away without doing any grinding whatsoever. Now, this is definitely not to say that the weapon isn't good. In fact, it's my third most used weapon in the entire game, and I've used this weapon for a lot of time, bearing in mind I've played the game for around 90 hours. So I think that shows that I A, know what I'm talking about, and B, really enjoy using this weapon. Overall then, this gun has the long range capabilities of your typical assault rifle, and at the same time it has the same sort of closer range engagement options that you would typically see from either a PDW or just a typical carbine. And it's just this versatility that makes this gun so good, because even though it is a carbine, it's not quite as good for longer ranges. It is a carbine, which means you can use it on any class that you want to. You can run engineer, you know, you can take out tanks, you can be air vehicles and stuff, or you can be a medic if you're playing an Operation Locker in the close quarter situations and still do well, because this gun is a carbine and you can take out enemies within the close quarters areas. Or otherwise you could be a bushwookie and keep throwing around motion balls and just be that sneaky devil that comes up behind everyone when you're using your suppressor. And as you saw in the first clip, you seem to run out of ammo with this gun very often, especially when you're using a suppressor. So by running support you kind of eliminate that problem, and also you're being a brilliant team player, unlike the guy who was in the clip beforehand, and you're throwing down ammo for other people. You know, you can use this gun however you want to, in whatever playstyle you think is right. And one of the problems that I found with, for example, the PDW cars, I think that's probably the cast that shows this issue one of the best, is that even if you do go on the close quarters maps, such as Operation Locker, where it should be best to use the PDWs as they are close range weapons, it doesn't work like that, because even on maps like Operation Locker, there are still very long range, like long sight lines that just don't physically work with the PDWs. And it means that even though the PDWs are brilliant at what they're designed to do, you cannot use them for what they're designed to do, because it just doesn't work. You know, there are other sight lines, longer sight lines in all of the maps. There's just such a variation of them, which really is a good thing. But when you're just trying to use a certain weapon type, it doesn't seem to work very well. And that is where weapons like this, such as the AK5C, the M416 and the Ace-23, are all so good in this game. And they do seem to work in every single map, no matter what sight lines there are, no matter whereabouts on the map you are, no matter where you're attacking on each map. And it's because of this that overall I would have to give this gun an 8 out of 10. And this is exactly the same as the Ace-23 and the M416. But I don't think this weapon is actually as good as either of those two weapons. But the only reason that I'm scoring it the same is that it is an all-kit weapon. You can use it however you want to, which means that this gun just has that extra amount of versatility that the other two guns simply do not have. So I think that overall we've kind of established now that this gun is definitely hot, and I would strongly advise that you use it and tell all of your friends about it if they haven't used it at all themselves. And I'm going to have to apologise for any of you who were expecting a video last week, but I was very busy doing revision for a few exams that I had coming up, so I apologise for not getting this video out then. But I'm sure that the next few videos I'm going to upload during the week, I'm hoping to upload at least 4 during this next week, so I hope that will make up for it in the long run. So yeah, tell me what you think of the weapon and what weapon I should do next, and for now, goodbye.
Thing onto a tank.